Chapter 3. Part 2. That evening too she did not leave her room, but ate the food the servant had brought her. Towards 11 o'clock, she phoned Jalal, who himself picked up the phone. Perhaps he was expecting her call. After some brief preliminaries, he came to the point. Mama, a short while ago I spoke to Abu. Then? After a few moments, Jalal said, Abu is not in favor of our marriage. Mama's heart sank. But you were saying that he would have no objection. Yes, I'd also thought so, but he has a lot of reservations. He feels that there's a lot of difference in the social status of our families, and he knows about your family, and his biggest objection is the fact that you want to marry me against your parents' wishes. As such, he is afraid that your people will create problems for us. She sat motionless with the mobile to her ear, listening to Jalal. Did you not try to make him agree? After a long pause, Jalal said, I tried my best. He said that if your people were willing then he would also consent, regardless of your family's faith, but without their consent our marriage is just not acceptable to him. And what do you say? Mama, I'm unable to think, Jalal said plaintively. Jalal, my parents will never agree to my marrying you. If I were to marry you, our entire community would boycott my parents and they would not be able to bear this. And then there is my engagement to Ashad. When Jalal insisted she try again, Mama said, I've already been slapped by my father just for disclosing that I am interested in someone else. If he should discover that you're not from the same faith as ours, he'll kill me. She begged Jalal to try again to persuade his father. Jalal relented, but he was very upset. Mama was in despair after her conversation with Jalal. She had never thought that his parents would object to their getting married. Cell phone in her hand, she sat lost in thought. Your father has already spoken to me about this, and he's absolutely right. You have no business putting yourself into peril. Jalal's mother spoke with finality when he approached her. I can't see what's so perilous, you're needlessly anxious, he protested. Jalal, you're naive to the point of stupidity. Your father knows Mama's family and their background. What do you think, that they'll leave you alone once you get married, or that they'll not hound us? Jalal persisted. We'll keep the marriage secret, no one will get to know. I'll leave for my specialization and then call Mama over after some time. I see no reason why we should take such a risk for Mama's sake. And you should know that we do not marry outside the family, there are plenty of eligible girls. Had I known your inclination, I'd have fixed you up elsewhere, she said angrily. It makes no difference that you like her, what matters is what we think, and your father and I do not like Mama or her family. He tried his best to convince his mother that she had seen Mama up close as she was Zainab's friend, that Mama had taken a major step in changing her faith and needed support and sympathy. Well then, her taking a major decision doesn't mean that she should put others in a risky situation. I respect her decision, she did the right thing, but we have our own concerns, she continued in a gentler tone. Think rationally, you have to go abroad to establish yourself professionally, set up your own hospital one day. Getting married into a good family will help you achieve your aims, you have no idea how many offers there have been for you. What can you hope to get by marrying Mama? Her family will boycott her and it'll be a social stigma for all. Have you thought of the future? What will you say when your own children question you? Jalal's mother spoke somberly, and he listened without interruption or protest, impassive. It was hard to gauge from his expression if her words had had any impact. Mama called Jalal again the next night. He received the call. His words plunged her into despair when he disclosed that he'd spoken to his mother and she was more opposed to this match than his father was. When I told her about your decision, she said it was your problem, not ours. Jalal's bluntness pierced Mama. I've tried my best, Mama, but there's no way my mother will agree, Jalal conceded quietly. Can't you marry me without their approval? She asked plaintively. No, I cannot, I love them too much to hurt them, to take this step without their good wishes. She begged and pleaded with him to rescue her from this situation, to save her life, but he was firm in his reply. I cannot disobey my parents. Don't pressurize me so. Mama's nerves were shattered. She had never abased herself so. She entreated him to have the Nika read secretly and said he could also then marry anyone else of his parents' choice, that she'd have no objection. Mama, stop being so childish. You should know what it'll mean if my parents get to know, they'll throw me out of the house. What are we supposed to do then? We'll work hard, we'll do something, we'll survive. Will this something finance my studies abroad? His tone was sharp, sarcastic. She had no answer. No, Mama, I can't sacrifice my dreams, my ambitions for you or for anyone else. I love you, yes, but I cannot display such sentimentality like you. Do not call me again because I am putting this whole affair behind me. I feel sorry for you, but you have to solve your problems yourself, I can't help you. Khuda Hafiz. Jalal hung up. It was 10:50 p.m. and Mama felt as if her world had gone up in smoke around her. Who knew better than her, at this moment, the agony of losing everything that was once within her grasp? Her mind was numb, her very being torn, she sat on her bed like a lifeless statue. I should tell Baba everything, what other option do I have? Perhaps, he'll throw me out, at least, I'll be free of this place. I do not want to marry a shad, so the question of shopping for the wedding does not arise, and Mama told her mother in a determined tone. First you were opposed to the idea of getting married, now you are opposed to marrying a shad, what on earth do you want to do? Her mother was exasperated. I don't want to marry a shad. Then who do you want to marry? Hashim Mubin was standing in the door. He must have certainly heard the conversation between Mama and her mother when he was in the corridor. He could not control his temper. Mama was silent. Tell me, who is it that you want to marry? Have you lost your tongue? Why don't you want to marry a shad? What's your problem? Answer me, he was screaming furiously. Mama composed herself and spoke courageously. Baba, marriage is a lifetime commitment. I want to marry of my own choice. Till yesterday, a shad was your choice, he reminded her bitterly. That was yesterday, not today, she replied. Why not now? Tell me, why not now? He asked in a raised voice. For a few moments, Mama looked at him without a word. Then she said, Baba, I want to marry a Muslim. The heavens seemed to fall on Hashim Mubin. What did you say? He asked uncertainly. I do not want to marry a non-Muslim because I have changed my faith to Islam. There was absolute silence in the room for the next few minutes. Salma was in a state of shock and Hashim Mubin, he seemed to have turned into stone. He stared speechlessly at Mama, as though he had forgotten how to breathe. He had never imagined, in his wildest dreams, that he would have to face such a situation in his own home, and that too at the hands of his most loved child. His life was being sucked onto a vortex. What the hell do you mean? Rage rose up in him like a wave. You know what I mean, Baba. You know very well. Yuri, out of your mind, he hollered. Mama shook her head silently, she knew the state of his mind. Was this why we brought you into the world, that you should, he searched for words. Yuri, doing all this just so that your marriage to a shad should be called off, that you can marry the man of your choice. No, it's not that. It is, do you take me to be stupid? Hashim Mubin was frothing at the mouth. You can arrange my wedding with anyone you like. I have no complaint as long as he is not from your community. At least, then you cannot say that I did all this for a particular person. Her father's anger knew no bounds, just a chit of a girl and telling him what to do. What did she know? I know a lot, Baba. I'm 20 years old, I don't have to be led by you. I know that your faith has brought a great deal of prosperity to our family, she spoke with composure in a steady voice. You will not be forgiven for your sins, he admonished her. Mama felt sorry for him, he was standing in hell and warning her of its horrors. She felt sorry for the man whose eyes were blindfolded, whose heart was sealed. She felt sorry for him whose soul had been crushed, who stood at the topmost level of waywardness and error. You have been led astray, just reading a few books has, he began to say, but Mama interrupted him. You will not be able to debate with me on this issue. I know everything, I have researched and confirmed it. What can you tell me or explain? You have chosen your path, and I have chosen mine. You are doing what you think is right, and I do what I believe to be right. Your faith is your personal matter, and mine is my personal matter. Isn't it better that you accept my decision as a conscious, deliberate act rather than as an emotional step? And Mama spoke with dignity and clarity, but her attitude further provoked her father. Allowing you to change your faith, do you know the repercussions? The community will boycott me, and I'll be reduced to nothing. We'll be brought to the streets. No, Mama, this cannot be. You may have lost your mind, but I haven't lost mine. You can follow whatever faith you wish, but you will marry a Shad and be part of their family. Leave this house and go live with them, perhaps, you will then know what to do with your life. Hashim Mubin stormed out of the room. As soon as he left, Salma turned on Mama, seething. If I'd known what shame you were going to bring on us, I'd have strangled you at birth. You seem determined to humiliate us in public. Mama looked at her without a word. Salma went on ranting and raving, and then walked out. About an hour after Salma left, there was a knock on the door. It was a Shad. Mama did not expect to see him here. Worry was written all across his face. Apparently, Hashim Mubin had called him over and disclosed everything to him. What's going on, Mama? Why are you doing this? He asked as he entered. Ashad, if you've been told what I have done, then you must also know why I've done it. You do not realize what you've done, he said, pulling up a chair. One makes such decisions in a fit of sentimentality. I'm aware of my actions, Mama cut across his words. What do you mean by sentimentality? Does one change one's faith out of sentiment? I have been studying Islam for the last 4 years, and that's not a short period. You must have been swayed by others' views. You. No, I was not swayed by anyone. I discarded what I thought was wrong and took up what is right, that's all. Ashad had no grounds for argument. He shook his head and said, very well, your faith is your concern, but why are you against our getting married? Let the wedding take place. You and I cannot get married. It will not be valid, Ashad was shocked. Why? Am I not a Muslim? When she replied in the affirmative, he blurted out, Uncle was right, you've been brainwashed. Then why should you want to marry such a girl? It's better that you find someone else for yourself, she retorted. I don't want you to ruin your life. Ruin my life? She laughed. What life? The life I am living with people who have sold their souls for worldly wealth? Behave yourself. You seem to have forgotten your manners the way you speak so carelessly, saying what you like about anyone, Ashad rebuked her. I cannot respect a person who's leading others astray, she said curtly. At your age, people do become confused about their identity. When you're older, you'll understand whether we're on the right path or the wrong one, Ashad calmed down and tried to pacify her. If you people think I'm in the wrong, then why don't you leave me alone, let me go free? Why am I a prisoner here? If you believe that your faith is true, let me find out for myself. If someone so close is bent on self-destruction, and that too a girl, we can't just leave her to destroy herself. And Mama tried to understand the sensitivity of this situation. Your family and all they have is at stake, because of you. Nothing is at stake because of me, even so, why should I care? Why should I go to hell for their beliefs or cast aside my faith for their sake? Ashad, I cannot tread this misguided path with you all, let me go where I choose, and Mama's voice was firm. And even if you forced me to marry you, it will be of no use to you, I will not be your wife in the real sense. I will not be faithful to you. I'll escape whenever I get the chance. How long will you imprison me or guard me? And I'll take your children away too, you'll never see them again. She tried to paint a horrifying picture of their future. If I were you, I'd never marry a girl like Imam Hashim, it would be a total loss, the limit of foolishness. You still have the opportunity to refuse, your future is at stake. Why don't you marry a nice girl of your community and live a happy life? Not me, I'll prove to be the worst nightmare. Ashad, just say no to this match. Tell Uncle Azam you don't want to marry me. Or go away somewhere and come back when this matter blows over. Stop giving me this silly advice. I'm not going to give you up, never. Nor am I going to pull out of this relationship or run away from home. You're the only one I will marry. Now it's a question of our family's honor and name. If you had any idea of the losses we'll have to face should this wedding be called off, you would not come up with such crazy notions. As far as being a bad wife or running away is concerned, that is a later issue. I know your temperament well. You're not inclined to harass people unnecessarily, least of all me who you love, Ashad concluded complacently. You're mistaken, Ashad. I've never been in love with you and, especially since I accepted Islam, I have severed my relationship with you. You're nowhere in my life now. If I can be a problem for my family, you should know what problems will follow for you and your family, so don't fool yourself. We cannot be together. I cannot be a part of your family, she paused, and then went on. There's a vast gulf between us, Ashad. We're so far apart that I cannot even see you. And I will not bridge this gulf. I'm just not prepared to marry you. Ashad's color changed as he watched and heard Imama. About 6 months ago. Yumra Ahmed official. Can you do me a favor? What do you think I've been doing all along? Asked Salah. There was silence at the other end, then she said, Can you go to Lahore and meet Jalal? Salah closed his eyes momentarily. Why? Imama's voice was low, heavy with tears. To request him on my behalf, to marry me. If not forever, then temporarily. I want to leave this house and cannot do so without his help. Tell him to just have the nikah finalized. You're in touch with him on the phone, why don't you tell him yourself? Salah said while munching on potato crisps. I did, she replied more tearfully. He refused. Very sad, said Salah. So it's a one-sided love affair. No. Then why did he refuse? What's it to you? She was peeved. What is the point of my going all the way to talk to him? You can call him again. But he does not speak to me, he doesn't receive the phone nor will he take any calls at the hospital. He's pointedly avoiding me. Then why are you chasing him? Obviously, he doesn't love you. You can't understand this, just help me out. Go there and tell him about my situation. He can't do this to me. And if he should refuse to entertain me, then? You can still try, at least once. Perhaps, a way can be found out of this mess. A smile arose on Salah's lips. He found Imama's predicament amusing. He switched off the phone and thought about her problem as he popped crisps into his mouth. He was getting more deeply involved in Imama's situation. It was the biggest adventure of his life, it seemed, first smuggling the cell phone to Imama, now contacting her boyfriend, Jalal. Imama had told Salah in detail about Jalal's home and the hospital. He was now thinking of what he'd say to Jalal. Salah took a good look at the man before him. He was disappointed, an ordinary face and build, and medium height. Perhaps he would have looked better without that beard. Salah's good looks, tall frame and athletic physique made him very attractive to the opposite sex, but this person was bereft of such advantages. Salah wondered what it was that had drawn Imama to this man. He thought she was more foolish than he believed. I am Jalal Ansar. You wanted to meet me? Salah Sikandar. Salah extended his hand. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. Naturally, we're meeting for the first time. Salah had come to the hospital, looking for Jalal. With a little help, he found him and was now with him in front of the duty room. Can we sit down somewhere and talk? Asked Salah. Talk about what? Jalal looked somewhat concerned. About Imama. Who are you? Jalal's expression changed. I'm her friend. Jalal looked at Salah without a word and they began to walk. My car's in the parking lot, let's go there, suggested Salah. They did not exchange a word till they reached the car. I've come from Islamabad, began Salah. Imama wanted me to speak to you. Imama never mentioned you to me, Jalal said rather oddly. Since when do you know her? Almost since childhood, our houses are adjacent. We're very good friends. Salah didn't know why he made the last statement. Maybe he was enjoying the spectrum of expressions crossing Jalal's face. He had noticed his look of displeasure. I've spoken to Mama in detail. I cannot see what's left to talk about after that, Jalal said in a flat tone. And Mama wants you to marry her. Salah's voice was equally expressionless, like a newsreader's. I have informed her of my decision. She wants you to review it. That's not possible. She's a prisoner in that house, in custody of her parents, her family. If you cannot commit yourself permanently, she wants you to make a temporary commitment and get her released with help from a bailiff. How can that be when she's being held captive? Queried Jalal, and Salah said the nikah could be conducted over the telephone. No, I cannot take such a risk. I don't want to get involved in such matters. My parents will never allow this, and they are not prepared to accept her anyway. Jalal's look was fixed on Salah's ponytail. He disapproved of Salah the way Salah had disapproved of him. She's ready to enter a temporary arrangement, Salah reiterated, so that she can leave her home. You can divorce her afterwards, if you wish. I think I've said clearly that I can't help her. Why don't you marry her if it's just a temporary arrangement? After all, you're her friend, aren't you? Jalal said pointedly. If you can come all the way from Islamabad to Lahore to help her, surely you can do this too. She didn't ask me to marry her, so I didn't think of it, Salah shrugged. In any case, she loves you, not me. What's love got to do with a makeshift marriage? You can divorce her later on, Jalal suggested a solution. Thank you, I'll convey your advice to her, replied Salah seriously. And if this is not possible, then tell Mama to find some other way out. In fact, why don't you go to a newspaper office and tell them about her predicament, how her parents are holding her against her will? When the media highlights this issue, her parents will be compelled to set her free, or you can go to the police and procure her release. Salah was surprised. Jalal was talking sense. Why had Mama not thought of this herself? This was a safer way out. Fine, I'll convey this too. Please don't come to me again, and also tell Mama that she's not to contact me in any way in the future. As it is, my parents are planning my engagement. Jalal added this revelation. Very well, I'll tell her all that you have said, replied Salah casually. Jalal said nothing more and stepped out of the car. If Mama had any hope that Salah would be able to convince Jalal to marry her, it was a great mistake on her part. Salah had no sympathy for Mama, nor had he entered this tangle out of any desire to do a good deed. It was just an adventure for him, and Mama marrying Jalal was not part of it. If he had to justify their marriage, the only justification he had was that they loved each other, but this was rejected by Jalal. Salah could not cite religious or moral reasons to persuade Jalal because he himself was so distant from the concepts of religion and morality. Above all, why would he get into a lengthy argument for Mama's sake, with someone whom he disliked at first sight? These thoughts crossed his mind as he drove back from Lahore to Islamabad. It was curiosity that took him to Lahore in the first place. What did this guy Jalal look like? How would he react to Mama's request? He had conveyed her message verbatim, and now he was taking back Jalal's response. It was an amusing scenario for Salah. What would Mama's reaction be? She was not going to marry Ashad, and Jalal was not ready to marry her. She could not leave home, and there was no one else who could come to her aid, so what would she do next? Usually, girls chose to take their lives in such circumstances. Oh yes, she'll come to me asking for poison or a revolver. Suicide, very exciting, he thought, in a perverse fashion, contemplating the possibilities. After all, what else can she do? Will you marry me? By nikah, on the telephone, a shock hit Salah. He was speechless. On returning from Lahore, he had repeated Jalal's response to Mama. He thought she would burst into tears and ask him for a weapon to end her life. Instead, she was quiet for a few moments and then sprang the question, which left him stunned and silent. I need your support just for a few days so that my parents cannot force me to wed Ashad. Then you can get me out of here with a bailiff's help. I will not need you after that, and I'll never disclose your name to my parents, Imama explained. Okay, I'll do it, but this bailiff business is tricky, there are many legalities involved, hiring a lawyer and… Imama interrupted him at the other end. You can get your friends to help you, they must be experts in doing such things. Salah frowned with annoyance. What sort of things? These sort of things, she replied calmly. How do you know? Wasim tells me that you don't keep very good company, blurted Imama, and then there was silence. She regretted having said that, it was inappropriate. My company is very good, at least, better than Jalal Ansar's, there was sharp irony in Salah's tone. Imama was quiet. Anyway, I'll see what I can do. But you should remember that this is a very risky course of action. I know, but it's possible that my parents may throw me out when they discover that I have married, then there'll be no need of a bailiff. Or they may accept my marriage, in which case, I'll divorce you and marry Jalal. Salah shook his head with disbelief, he had never met anyone so stupid. This girl could be crowned the queen of folly. Anyway, let's see what can be done, he said and hung up. I want to sign a marriage contract, a nikah. Hassan stared at Salah and burst out laughing. Is it a new adventure or your last adventure? The last adventure, Salah replied in a serious tone. So you're going to have a wedding? Asked Hassan as he took a bite of the burger. Who's having a wedding? I just want to go through a nikah with a girl who needs help, I want to help her. Hassan looked at him intently. Are you joking? No, not at all. I didn't call you here to joke with you. Then what's this nonsense about a nikah and helping a girl? Hassan was annoyed. Are you in love or something? My foot. Am I crazy to go falling in love, and that too at this age? Salah scoffed. That's what I was wondering, why are you doing this? Salah spoke to Hassan in detail about Imama and her problem, but he did not tell him that she was Wasim's sister, because Hassan knew Wasim quite well. However, Hassan immediately asked about the girl's identity. Salah took a deep breath. She's Wasim's sister. What? Hassan literally jumped up. The one who studies in a medical college in Lahore? Salah nodded in assent. You must be crazy to do such a senseless thing. You'd better tell Wasim about the whole situation. I'm asking for your help, not your advice. Salah was upset. What can I do to help? Hassan was unsure. You arrange for a nikah registrar and some witnesses so that the nikah can be read over the phone. Salah came to the point. How's this going to benefit you? Hassan wanted to know. In no way, but then I'm not doing this for any benefit. Damn it, Salah. Why are you getting into this mess, and that too for Wasim's sister? Salah cut him short. Just tell me if you'll help me or not. You need not bother about other things. Okay, I'll help you, I'm not refusing you. But you'd better think twice, because this is a very dangerous step. Hassan seemed to have given up. I've thought about it. Now tell me the details. Salah was more relaxed now. He popped some French fries into his mouth. There's one more thing, what if your parents find out? They won't, they're not here, they're in Karachi, and will be there for some days. It would have been tough for me if they were here. Salah tried to appease Hassan. They continued to munch on the fries, but Hassan's mind was somewhere else. Salah, however, was not too concerned on that account. Hassan was not worrying about the situation, he was figuring the best strategy. Salah had no fears about Hassan, he was Salah's best friend. Hassan made all the arrangements very smoothly. Salah gave him some funds and 3 witnesses were arranged for while he himself was the 4th witness. The nikah registrar had some apprehensions that something was amiss about this whole affair, but apart from a handsome fee he was also given a clear warning, and he quietly obliged. It was late afternoon when Hassan came over with the registrar and the witnesses. They all went into Salah's room and the nikah papers were filled out. Salah had already informed Imama, and at the appointed time the nikah contract was read out over the telephone. Salah sent the Nika forms over to Imama through the maidservant. As soon as she received the papers, Imama signed them swiftly and sent them back to Salah. The maid brought them back to him, but the mystery was killing her. Who were these people in Salah's room? What were they doing? What were these papers that Imama had signed? She had a suspicion that Salah and Imama were getting married, but she could not control her curiosity. Handing the papers to Salah, she put on an air of innocence and asked Salah Saab, "What are these papers? How do they concern you?" "Mind your own business," he told her off sharply. "And understand this very clearly that you are not to talk about this to anyone. You'd better keep your mouth shut, it's best that you do so," he warned her sternly. "Why should I go about talking, sir? I was just asking you." "You can rest assured, Salah Sahib, I won't breathe a word to anybody." She was petrified. As it was, Salah had an abrupt and terse manner and she was scared to approach him. He gestured imperiously for her to leave. He did not worry about the maid telling everyone what was going on, even if she did. So what? What happens next? Wait for the next part. Thanks you.